Hello and welcome back to my review of the H2R Nova. I finally finished the review. Now this is a sample that's been sent to me via Olight, so full disclosure on that, but this is a review, so I'll tell you what I think after I've been through the operation of the torch. I have the cool white version. There is a neutral white available, and as you can see, this is designed as a multi-use torch, a headlamp and a torch. On the back of the box, just some of the features. We have a new super high output LED on this model. Also have the magnetic base charging. Now the specs will list out the power run times, and you can see here from the turbo right down to the moon mode. There's also a tab at the bottom that you'll need to pull open to take it out of the box. Pay attention to that spec because that gives you your run times. We'll compare it later on with the H1R Nova. Rip that open to get into the box, and it's packaged in a cardboard, unlike the usual plastic ones that Olight have, so it's a bit easier to get into. Now take out the section at the back. This has all the accessories. You'll see the user manual. We'll have a look at that later on. Got some pads in here. They've got an adhesive side too, and the head strap. Also have the magnetic USB charger. This works with other Olight products that use the magnetic charging system. It also has a little LED on there to show you the charge status, about 30 centimeters in length. And looking at the head strap, as you'd expect, very nice quality. Olight have done a good job on this. We've got nice wide straps, a lot of flex, good strong buckles. And you also have a head adjuster as well, so be able to use this whether you've got a hat on or direct onto the head. Now the front silicone flap is surrounded by a harder plastic. It's not brittle plastic, it has a bit of flex but not much, and they've managed to weld that on somehow. It seems quite secure, quite an interesting design. If you take the head strap off the back there, you'll see there's a foam pad, and behind that is the magnet. If you want to take the magnet out, you can replace it with a thicker pad, the shorter pad here, and then cover it over again. Personally, I don't think that's an issue. I have the weight here with the torch and the strap with the magnet in, and I think it's actually not that heavy, particularly for this type of battery that's being used. Now looking at the design, you'll see they've got a double clip now on the H2R. That's different from the other Olight torches that I have that have single clips, so you don't have to try and reverse it. You can use it in both directions. We'll unscrew the back, take out the protective cover, and you'll see we have the custom battery. There's positive and negative terminals on the same point, and the same with the cap. That's how the magnetic charging system works. This is a high drain cell, and you can see some of the information that's printed on there. It does have circuit protection built in, overcharge, short circuit, discharge, etc. Now this is similar to the other Olight cells that are customized here. You'll see at the top the 2600 milliamps an hour, but I'll do some battery testing in a while to show you about the different types of batteries with this torch. Inside we have the spring at the top, and a quick look at the cap. You'll see the positive and negative terminals marked and an indication not to short circuit it. The LED on this is a Cree XHP50. And we look at the top, we have quite an oversized button on this, bigger than the H1R. It has a silicone feel to it. Grooves in the top of the head act as a heatsink. You also have holes at the top of the clip so you can put a strap. It feels good in the hand. Remember, this is a torch designed for dual use, as a headlamp and as a hand torch. Now taking the clip off, quite stiff, you need to give it a good tug. You'll need to do that if you attach it to the head strap. Now we're going to try a few cells in this. You'll note that the flat top cells won't work. That's because the contact point's recessed. And I have a normal standard sort of size battery, 2600. And I'll put that in and just show you what happens with that. Now with the normal power modes up to high, it works fine, no problem at all. But if you try to kick it up to turbo, the protection circuit kicks in and cuts off the power. I've tried a Panasonic, rewrapped Panasonic, 3400 milliamps an hour, very common cell, and this can run it for a bit longer, but after about 6-7 seconds the protection circuit kicks in on that. Now I'm trying out an unprotected cell, and I've added a magnetic spacer. This is the LG HG2. This is a high power cell. People use this for high drain devices including vaping, etc., and that works no problems at all. Just remember that's not a protected cell, but that will power the torch at full power for the full run times. Looking at the user manual, this pretty much repeats what the box does. There's a slight typo with the high power output. It has 2.5 minutes. That should read 2.5 hours, and it goes through the process of charging, turning the headlamp, removing the clip, basic operation, pretty straightforward with quite clear diagrams. Also shows you how to remove the magnet from the head strap if you wish to. Personally, I don't think it adds much weight myself, so I will just leave it there. And we'll go through the basic operation and use, which is quite familiar to anyone that's used Olight. If you haven't, it's pretty straightforward, and I will show you how to operate the torch shortly. You do have moonlight mode and SOS, as well as a lockout function too. User guide's good, apart from that one typo mistake. Now the magnetic holder on the head strap is very good. It snaps into place, and it's more than capable of holding the torch without any problems at all, even without putting the flap down. The magnetic part is the battery. The torch is aluminium, so obviously that's not magnetic, but it's a good fit, and I'm quite impressed with the design on this. It certainly helps putting the torch in securely. Once you've put the flap over, tucked it over the latch, you'll see that it doesn't move that easily. It's actually quite firm in place, and I was outside when it was raining last night, didn't have any problems with movement at all. So a nice job that they've done on the head strap. You'll be able to see here the latch is quite deep and angled, so there's really no chance of that coming undone by accident. I'm comparing it now to the H1R, which was a very popular model, and I use this quite a bit. You can see there's a bit of a length difference, as you would expect, but they do use the same magnetic charging, and the design is similar but not quite the same. Do look at this, because this shows you the run times. That was a weakness of the H1R, particularly at the higher power level here. If 180 lumens, about 100 minutes. And if we look on the H2R, we have slightly less power, but it runs for 10 hours at 150 lumens. That's a big difference. They've also changed the button design a bit. It was a flat design on the H1R, and they've made it a bit bigger as well. It's also almost flush, whereas it's a bit recessed on the H1R. There's small changes, but make it a bit easier to get to the button. Both torches have the micro lens design, where it's covered in very small lenses to help spread the light out. On the H1R, that has a sort of raised section slightly, whereas it's smooth on the H2R. I haven't noticed any difference other than that. There is a notch in the clip though on the H1R, but there isn't on the clip with the H2. Threads are already greased on this. Now in the hand, good feel in the hand for a torch which is designed for dual use. I'm quite happy with the operation. It certainly helps the small changes that they have made to the button design. Now the torch with the battery and without the clip came in at just over 100 grams, which is around 3.6 ounces. So I don't think it's particularly heavy. They've made it as light as they can. Now turning the torch on and off, you have a soft on and off. So it gradually ramps the power up. Just makes it a bit easier on the eyes, and then push and hold to change the power levels. Once you release, the power level changes, and then you can double click to go to the turbo mode. Moonlight, you can push and hold the button, activates the moonlight, and if you keep holding it, it will give you the momentary on function with a triple press for the SOS mode. Just the one strobe mode on this light. Now if you were designing a headlamp on its own, you would probably put the button on the side, because it would probably be easier to get to at the top, although you can use this left or right side. That is one advantage. So bear in mind that this is designed to be dual use, and that's probably why they put the button on the top. Just in case you are interested, the H1R Nova also fits into the head strap perfectly fine, no problems, and it grips quite nicely too. So if you have that torch, you can interchange the two without any problems, despite the fact it's a bit smaller. You can also use the micro dock with this. They just give you the magnetic USB charging cable with it, which is probably more convenient for it, leaving it on the strap. Now charging this up, the charging speeds with the magnetic charger, I was getting around 800 milliamps. That was around about the figure that I was getting for a low battery. I've seen it go very slightly higher. It will reduce down over a period of time. You can also power the torch on whilst you're charging it. That could be useful. I've measured the termination at 4.21, fraction over the optimal, and the battery capacity came in over the 3000 milliamps an hour mark, so that's up to spec, slightly over. Just be careful with the chargers. With that, you're probably best charging in torch for most people. Onto the beam pattern, very wide even distribution. That's thanks to those lenses on the front which spread the light out. Now I'm going through my beam shot tests, starting at the lower power level, and we'll gradually move it up through the power levels. We're up to the high mode now, and then into the turbo. You can see a big jump in power from the high to the turbo, and that really lights up the whole garden. This is about 90 to 100 foot away, so some distance, and it's just lit the whole area up. Now, you do have a limited runtime with that, and we'll take a look at that a bit later on. Comparing the H1R, the spacing's a bit different. The low mode's a bit lower on the smaller Olight. And then we're ramped up to the turbo mode now, which is around about the 600 lumens mark. You can see obviously there's a big difference between the turbo on the two of them, but it is an interesting test to make to see how much extra power you get. I'm on the H1R now, turbo, and then H2R turbo, obviously very big difference in output. So this has a bit of range, even though it's designed more for up close to medium work. Now the moonlight mode is very low on this. They've really changed this from the H1R, which is shown now. They rated it a couple of lumens, and that was something that people were looking for, to have a really low moonlight, and they've done that with the new model. We're now back on the H2R, going through the power levels outside. It's my normal wide angle test. You can compare this to other reviews that I've done just to see what the beam pattern's like. And I'm now gone up to the high mode, which is perfectly decent, and this would be more than enough power for a lot of activities. But then you can click into the turbo mode as we have now. You can see the power really opens up. I mean, it just fills the entire area with light. If you're a fan of big power turbo modes, you will be very impressed with this particular light. Now we've gone on to the H1R. Going through the power modes again. Low mode is a bit lower on this, and then jumping up through the power levels. It's perhaps an unfair test in some ways, but it will show you how much extra light you can put out there if you want to. And then we go up to the turbo. It's still very decent on the turbo mode for such a small light. It's also very pocketable, so you're going to have to decide on run times versus size and weight. So the H2R, I'm at the 600 lumen mark, and I think that's a bit brighter to my eyes than the turbo on the H1R. Telephoto test now. This is the same as the other torches that I've done, so you can go over the previous videos and look at the beam shots. And up close, as you would expect, nice wide even distribution across the frame. Telephoto test on the tree. This is my usual tree test that I do, and we've gone from high to turbo. You can see the turbo really lights up the whole area very nicely indeed. There's a lot of power going out of that, and I've got the H1R in turbo. This is a good distance away, maybe about 50 foot. So it's something which you could consider if you want a bit more range. That turbo does give you that, even though the torch isn't designed for range specifically. And I've just down the side of the house, going through the modes, up to the high and then into the turbo. You wouldn't normally be using high modes at this closer range. You'd have perfectly good vision up close with a lower mode. And as I've done here, I'm quite close, and you'll see when I ramp up the power, it's a bit too much at the high levels. So really, you're going to have no problems with the low mode, which is around about 30 lumens. You can see it here. I've been using this quite a bit because it gives you a really good runtime, and you also get a decent amount of power output as well. The runtime on that's supposed to be around about 50 hours or something, which is a lot. And the moonlight mode is very low. I'm quite close to the plant here, but a lot of people like that super low moonlight mode. Do a quick look at the SOS. just the one strobe mode. Maybe would have liked a normal strobe as well to be included. And I'm shining it on the top of the roof, going from high up to the turbo. You can see the turbo is completely blowing out the camera. It can't really cope with the whites, and it's lit up the entire area. You know, it is, to be honest, good fun to play with the turbo. I think it could be of some use. You do have a limited runtime on that, but that's obviously going to be a trade-off with a smaller torch. Also, the magnetic base is pretty handy. I was attaching it to the side of the car. You can also angle it around, change the direction as it suits, and we're on the low mode. Plenty enough light if you were working on something. So it's a universal handy torch. Now, water resistance, covering it in water, no problems at all. It's fully waterproof and pressure tested waterproof as well, IPX8, underwater, and you can operate the torch as well underwater. So I left it in here for half an hour, no problems at all. I thought I'd do a turbo mode drop down test. It's already been on for 30 seconds, and I'm showing in the video gradual ramping down that it does. It's set on a timer, this torch, so if you pay attention to the corners particularly and the area on the table which is blown out, the white area, you'll see that gradually recede slightly. You can always go back over the clip to see that. Also pretty handy for lighting up these glow in the dark pebbles that I have. Full turbo mode, bang, lots of light. Impressive in terms of full power output, certainly. Second test on the runtime test with the turbo mode, already been on for 30 seconds as the last one. You'll see it drop down to the 750 lumen mark. Gradually, it's about as gradual as you could get for this type of torch. Now, you will notice the heat building up on the torch. It doesn't get so hot that you can't hold it, but it certainly does get hot on the head, and that extends down through the body as well. So it's obvious why they've left it on a rundown timer of a minute. But I'm not sure whether a thermal one would have maybe helped, particularly in cold weather conditions. Not really sure on that. I'm not a torch engineer, but it's just something which I considered. Some torches do have that. Now it's time for a summary and conclusion on the Olight, and overall thoughts on the new H2R are mostly positive. Very impressive top end output, has to be said. Even though you have a fairly limited runtime, it could come in handy. You need big power, you have it if you want it. They've also made some nice changes to the design of the body. The enlarged button, a bit easier to press. It's also the angle also helps if you're holding it in your hand, so that was a good move. And the head strap redesign was another nice touch that they've done. They've added more stability to the mount by making it plastic, and the magnetic holder also works very well. I was quite impressed with that. The H1R one was all silicone, and it perhaps needed a more solid mount, and they've done that for the head strap, so you'll be quite happy with this using it out and about. It's not going to move around or come loose at all. There are a couple of small points to mention. I perhaps would prefer to be able to use normal cells for in-torch charging. Perhaps that's something that they can add later on to newer models. I'm not sure on that. And the strobe mode, would have liked another strobe, perhaps a rapid fire flashing one on that. Not sure about the thermal regulation. That was just an idea that I had. I'm not sure if it would make any difference to the higher end ramping down on the power. But in most ways, very nice torch, nicely designed and engineered, and you have that big power mode output, but more importantly, long run times at medium settings, which is something the smaller torches and headlamps can't offer. So thanks for watching the video. I hope it was of some use to you, particularly if you're looking at this model. Please subscribe if you like, because then I'll be able to review and test more products for you and show them in detail. And if you have any questions, leave them below, or even any comments. What would you like in a headlamp or a dual purpose torch headlamp like this? Are there any features that are important to you? Because makers also are interested in people's opinions, and your opinion counts just as much as mine does.